Okay, so what we have going on in the shop tonight is we're going to take a DuBro heavy-duty hinge that's really designed to be used in balsa wood. And we're going to use that type of a hinge, and we're going to get it to center in a piece of Lite-Ply wood rather than a piece of balsa. And what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to actually, or not try, we're going to make it work. We're going to get it to center into this piece right in here, in this piece of Lite-Ply. And the way I do that is a little different than the method that DuBro wants you to use this type of hinge. Normally what you would do is on a piece of balsa wood, they would take this, let's say this would be your trailing edge. You would take your tool, you would insert it into the wood, work it in, and work it all the way up to about right here. And that would basically give you two spaces with inside. Then you would take your pick and go in and pick out the pieces of balsa wood. Then that would leave you a pocket. You would put your glue in the pocket and push your hinge in. But we're not doing that, so we're going to get rid of that. And the way it ends up looking is, this is a stab off one of the projects I'm working on. What I do is we actually make a laminated hinge pocket, or not what to call it. It's 3 laminations of 1/32 plywood over physically over the hinge, and then that gets glued into place into the structure. That's what this oblong shape is here and all along here. So once again, we're going to take this hinge and we're going to make it work with the Lite-Ply. So the way we do that is we'll go over to where all the parts are, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we're over at the parts area here, and what I have is, this is basically our simulated leading edge and trailing edge of the stabilizer and the elevator. So this would be the elevator portion, this would be the stabilizer portion like you saw over there. And once again, these are pieces of Lite-Ply that have been cut to have all the parts match. But what we're going to end up doing is we're going to assemble some of the small parts. We have an outer plate, our hinge, we have an inner plate, and then we have another plate. And then this is actually the, let's call it the jig that we're going to take these actual parts and lay them in here to put the hinge together. That is eventually going to go in here and is going to look like that. So when we're all said and done, this is the cutout. This is the part that's made with the hinge integrated into it. You basically snap it in place, and then you have one on the opposite side here, and then you put them together, and before you glue them, we'll put a pin down the middle, and they'll all be lined up. So show you how the parts physically go together. So the way the system works is, once again, these things are going to get laminated up. This is the jig that's going to hold all the parts when we make them. So the way I start is take this piece here, and what we want to do is, it's very hard to see, but the hinge itself is going to be recessed slightly past the edge of the outer plates. So what we have to do first is we take a sanding block and we knock an edge down a little bit so it has a little bit of a recess to it. Now, what that recess is going to do is that's going to allow the hinge to sit in here and be able to countersink past this a little bit. Because if you had it even, you would have a big hinge gap. You want to keep your hinge gaps nice and tight. We do on aerobatic planes, so we want the hinge, we want this surface here, this edge, to be almost to the center, just enough to clear. So now we have a piece sanded here. Basically set that down in there. This is specifically cut so this fits very snug. And what I do is I take this piece here, throw a little bit of glue here. You don't need a ton of glue because you don't want it to stick in the jigger. You want to get it out. Take that. That goes down inside here. Press that into place. Now we take our hinge, And what I like to do is, these are made of 1/32 aircraft ply. So what we do is make sure that'll pop out like that you don't have too much glue on it. Once it's medium CA, Bob Smith CA. Put that back in the jig. We want to take some maybe 100 grit sandpaper and rough this up a little bit. Basically what I do is just hold it, run it up and down a couple times. The hinge actually has some very, very slight ridges on it, which will take up space in the three pieces when you put them together. So now what you're going to do is you're going to put enough glue on here. You don't want a ton of glue. You just want enough, about that much there. And what you're going to do is just press the hinge in place. Put it in your piece that's made. Press it in place. It goes in there very, very tight. You're going to get some on your fingers. Once again, pop that out. Make sure it's pressed down in place really, really well. So the hinge itself is 1/32 thick. Okay, after that's dry, it's medium CA. It dries real quick. Put it back in the jig. Press it down in there. Then here's your top piece. Once again, you're going to have to file or sand a relief on this. So basically, you can see the slight relief on it. Might be hard to see, but then, so that's going to go back in place here. Make sure it fits. Yep. We're going to pop that out. Make sure that's down in place. Put some more glue in here. Make sure you have glue in the holes, because the glue in the holes is what's going to hold the whole thing together. You don't need to glue close to the edges. That's going to get taken care of when we actually put it into the frame. So we're going to take that, pop that in place, press down, hold it, and press it right through, and hold it in place. Now, so that is your hinge now. And once again, that is designed. This is our simulated leading and trailing edge of our surface. So now you have one here. We can place that in there, push that down in, make sure that's down in place, and your hinge is now centered in the piece of Lite-Ply. There it is. Kind of hard to see, but it is centered in there. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take your other piece. I already had this one made. Make sure that your hinges are that way. So what's going to happen now is we put this one in here. Now, what we're going to do is we have an end one already made up. This is a little different orientation. It has a this piece right here would be used if this was in the middle of in the center area of the wing or the flying surface, whatever you have. This one here is a little different shape. This one's made to go on the edge like this, if this would be the end of the stab. So that one would go in there. Like that. And we're going to have another one here. I'll get that one put together. So we'll do the same thing. That goes in there. A little bit of glue on this. Don't need much. Very, very slight along here. I don't want to get it into the mold. Okay. I'm going to lay that in there. Press that in place and pop it out. In case you have any glue in there. The reason I take it out, push it in really quick and take it out, is to make sure that the glue doesn't get it set in here. Wipe it off, then we push it back in. We're going to take our hinge. Now what we have to do here is, this is very important because I've screwed up a couple times. So this is on one side, this is going to be the other one. You have to make sure that your hinges are opposite. So when this one goes in, this has to go into the pocket this way. This one's already sanded. Put my glue on there. Or you can do it here. It doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. Get that in there. That's good. Press it down in there. You can see a little bit of the glue squirting out. Okay. Going to take our other piece here. Once again, somebody else might have another method. This is my method for being able to use the giant scale hinges. Get that pressed down in place. We'll pop that out so it don't get stuck. Squish it together. Okay. So they go together nicely. We get our two pieces back over here. Let's see, put this one in. That'll go in there. Take this one. Set that one in there. Like so. Take this one. That one's going to go in here. Once again, they're opposite. Now, we don't glue these in place yet. They're going to fit a little snugger. If you wanted to get them a little less snug, you can sand the edges. This thing is all laser cut, so I know it'll go together. So, the reason for doing this is we aren't going to use the hinge pins, the brass hinge pins that come with the hinge. And the reason we're going to do that is we want to be able to remove the surface. So that goes together. This is going to be a piece of piano wire, which is the correct diameter. I can't remember what it is. I think it's 1/16 inch. That'll go right together like that, and that is your hinge. Now, the good thing about this is, here's a tail surface right here that's already completed. You'll see the hinges in here. And the hinge, you'll see the gap is very, very tight. No justice. The gap is very, very tight, and that's because we made the hinge fit appropriately. Now, the nice thing about it is you're going to be able to remove the, by pulling this pin out. This is a pin that goes all the way through. To remove your surface when it's on the airplane, if you have to do service work, you pull the pin out, and you can take everything right apart. So, that's the reason we do that. Now, we're back over at the bench here. So we have our piece made. Now, like I say, once again, once you physically get this hinge pin in, and these things aren't glued in, you know it's all lined up. You might have 5 hinges on a surface. Push your pin through. You know, if you have to sand some stuff to make it fit a little more appropriately, you can do that. But once you have your pin in and everything in place, then you take I just take thin CA and run thin CA around here, thin CA around here. Keep it away from your hinge point with your pin in place, and then when you're done, you pull your pin out. Now everything's glued together. So next thing you're going to do is what's really going to hold these in place. That one's a little loose, I didn't glue it, but what's going to hold it in place is you're going to take your balsa wood for your leading and trailing edge. What you'll do is you'll have whatever balsa wood you want to use. You're going to glue that over the edge like that, or if it's this way, this is going to be glued on let's say the top of the structure. You're going to have a piece on the bottom of the structure that'll physically lock this plate to this piece of wood in place. This will all be glued together. And once again, that'll look like this then. So you'll have, here's your Lite-Ply structure, here's your hinge plates, and then this is all balsa that's holding this in place. And so the hinge plate can't come out this way. It's done on both sides, and it can't pull out that way because it has the trapezoid shape to it. So that was my concept for doing hinges for a giant scale airplane using a Lite-Ply structure. Hopefully that helps. Have a good night.